Hello, John.
Hello, Oliver.
And a Happy New Year to you.
And a Happy New Year to you, Oliver, and all the people that support us in our Christian and Jobs Action Party videos, these matters that we produce on various issues as affecting the situation in Ireland.
As our first video for 2019, we're going to discuss Bono and why people hate Bono. Hate is a very strong word. I don't think people actually hate him, but I do think he rubs people up the wrong way. So U2 came from nothing. They've been on the road for many, many years. They've worked hard. They've gigged all their lives. Bono was a loyal family man. He practices and preaches the Bible in his music. And U2 are essentially, most people probably don't know it, they're a Christian band. And it was their belief in Christianity that helped them actually break America in the 1980s when other bands failed.
Yes.
So over to you.
Yes, that's correct, and it's something that's not generally publicised by the media, etc. But anybody that has followed them knows that America was always a very difficult market to penetrate. So they found a niche market in their music and their songs with the Christian Bible Belt community in that country, because America has various Christian denominations, but so it would be 80 to 90% Christian of one kind or another, and so that was a fairly significant amount of people. And that's what he aimed at, and that's what put him on the market as regards in America. As a matter of fact, a lot of his concerts were in these areas initially, and which were very well attended. And of course, publicity and numbers multiply, so that when people see a large crowd at the concerts, and then wherever else he goes, the same thing, of course. So it kind of built from the fact that he approached that he aimed at the Christian community in the US.
There's been a lot of stuff in the media about asking people to donate to Africa while you two avoid tax. That's a big issue.
Well, you see, I think first of all, the people have so much pressure in their lives to sort of acquire a home, as we know, and to have a family to look after those. That's their first requirement. So if Bono and his band wish to donate to Africa, well, by all means do, because I think musicians are fairly well paid and are in receipt of a lot of money, so they would have the wherewithal to do it. But let people, if they wish to subscribe to that or any other worthwhile cause, because in this country there are a lot of worthwhile causes. And as a matter of fact, in Africa, it's the Catholic and Christian communities that actually give aid to a lot of those people in those countries that are haven't got the facilities to run schools or hospitals, and it's Catholic priests and nuns that do that. So I don't know where his money would be going to with aid to Africa, because I know that he was a supporter of abortion and various other issues, so that doesn't sound to me like a recipe for supporting Africa or anybody else.
I think people are generally sceptical of celebrities doing some good work.
Well, yes, I think like their main task is to have a talent for singing, and people like their music. Personally speaking, I was never a follower. They were before my time, and I'm not too fond of their lyrics whatsoever, but a lot of people are, and they were the first world band from this country that I'm aware of. John McCormack was a great singer in the 20s and gave this country a great image abroad. That was one thing that gave a great image, but as regards singers, we've had singers, but not to the extent of the exposure and that the U2 have got worldwide.
Another controversy has been force-feeding Apple fans an album, one of their albums.
Well, you see, apparently Apple are always looking at what way to advance their own profits. And U2, the band, and Bono. Funny enough, I used to call him Bonio for some reason, and my late wife was always correcting me because that's how much interest I had in Bonio.
Right, okay.
For me, but there was a dog food called Bonio.
I remember Bonio, yeah.
Well, unfortunately, I had to have it called him that. And so we lived outside. I would have never bought a record of his or anything. But it was good. It was good for this country to put it on the map, because a lot of people often claimed years ago that they didn't know where the world was. They used to mix it up with Iceland. Nobody knew where it was, or nothing about it. No, that has changed now, because we have a lot of people from East Europe that have managed to find all sorts of hidden places in Ireland. No matter where you go, they're there. So we'll say more about that. But Bono has done that. So when you have a talent, I think it's best to use it and not start to preach. He does meet world leaders, and I don't know what they talk about. Do they perhaps say a few prayers together or what have you? That's something we don't often hear about. And he's met the Pope recently as well, this Pope Francis.
Okay, I just want to come back, John, to the force feeding the Apple fans an album, right?
Oh, yes.
Why that would upset fans and why that would upset musicians? Because Paul Brady was critical of him.
Well, I'd say most musicians would be, because when you become reasonably well known as a singer and a musician, and we have a good lot of people in this country. Paul Brady would be one, the Chieftains would be another. The Clancy brothers and Tommy Macon would have been another. So they hope to get people buying their records and tapes and CDs or whatever else that they produce that fans can buy. But if they start doing deals with internet companies, well then that changes the whole culture of what they do. And the fact that Bono did that tells me that he shouldn't have done it. He should have, first of all, he should have thought of his colleagues in the music business that mightn't be in receipt of as much money as he was. And he wasn't short of a shilling at that stage, so he didn't need to do that. And
well, there's a good point now. He didn't need to do it.
No. And I think he let down his colleagues in the music business, who were often starting the way he started. He started singing in Grafton Street, and I think the Crows used to disappear because they weren't that keen on
You're talking about Bono started in Grafton Street. The Dandelion Market, as far as I know.
Oh, even dandelions. They're a weed, aren't they?
It's hang on a second. It's the Slazenger, the old Slazenger site. Okay, which is now St. Stephen's Green Shopping Centre. That was the Dandelion Market. Okay, so I think they started there somewhere.
And it was a fairly kind of what would I call it? A market that looked as if it should move to nicer places. It was a dirty looking site, if I remember rightly.
That's right. Yeah.
And so that's what he was singing. Some people call it yowling, but we call it singing. And that's where he started. So he started off more or less busking. And then he went on to better things. You should always think where you come from, so as you don't lose the run of yourself.
Okay, so he's been called a champagne socialist.
Well, that's what it sounds like, because they often spout socialism while living in the lap of luxury. And we know for a solid fact that socialism and blinking communism were a disaster when they were tried and implemented, because the people that was implemented it lived in the lap of luxury, while the poor people were persecuted and more than this, that and the other. So we have to take a look at socialism with a very jaundiced eye.
Oh wow. Shane MacGowan appears to be more popular in the Irish psyche than Bono. Why do you think that is? I mean, Shane MacGowan gets drunk every day. He writes a few songs.
Well, of course, he was with the Pogues, and he always seemed to be sort of not in a state of good health. He always looked very unhealthy looking to me, like a fella that might collapse any minute, or maybe faint on the stage. Perhaps he did. And he always seemed to be thirsty. He was swinging out of things. So he has what we used to call a handicap. because moderation in all things, but Shane MacGowan appears to be permanently in a state of inebriation. And apparently if he ever gave it up, it'd kill him because his liver must be destroyed. So Shane MacGowan did produce some interesting songs, and one of the good ones that he did there lately with the Dubliners was the Sligo, what was it, the ship, the Sligo Rover, that, you know, about that great ditty.
The Irish Rover, is it?
The Irish Rover, and a shipload of stuff going somewhere, and they're all drowning
So,
the dock.
is it maybe that people look at Shane MacGowan and they say they feel sorry for him, or is it because he comes across as more authentic?
Well, they feel sorry for him, and he has talent. In some ways he looks as if he's abused it, but he's still able to sing and perform. How he's able to do it is a mystery, and how he's still in the land of the living is another mystery, because you would think abusing your body as much as he has done would be finish off altogether. Mm-hmm. So I often feel very sorry for that man. I presume with his name, his parents were Irish, he probably was brought up a Catholic, and it fell on shallow ground. He doesn't seem to have practiced that end of it, because if so, he would have desisted from the alcohol years ago when it became a problem, which I think it did. But then with Bono, we're talking about Bono. Mm-hmm. Bono, I think we have found out, or he has responded, he's done a couple of very peculiar things. The Irish flag was thrown up on the stage one time, and he threw it back. He supports a world flag. Now,
He considers himself a world citizen.
A world citizen. Well, that's a very dangerous concept, because there are the elite, Soros, billionaire individual that has interfered with the political situation in countries and trying to promote and abortion and same-sex marriage and various other situations, including Rothschilds and all these elite billionaires trying to fight a world system so that there wouldn't be individual governments and all the rest of it. Now, the EU is an example of supposed to be cooperation between countries, but it's something along those lines. So these monopoly situations, even in the food trade years ago, is a dangerous thing. And what Bono was spouting there is a very dangerous thing. A world citizen. He was born, I think, in this country, I presume. He did good. But I think all this wealth and success has sullied his mind.
Okay. John Patrick Ellis mentioned on the internet, he said he never called himself Irish, he's a world citizen. He told fans he doesn't want the tricolour at his shows in Scotland because the tricolour is sectarian to Scots. He still hasn't paid the Irish taxes he owes, and he's filthy rich, politically correct muppet who wants Irish people to be replaced with foreigners, just to name a few. What does he mean, tricolour is sectarian to Scots?
Well, Scotland, well, of course, that's completely wrong. Scotland is a sectarian country, has been for years, worse years ago, but it's still there according to reports that I read about it. You've got Glasgow Celtic, which was a soccer team, very successful, founded by a Christian brother in that country, to try and give the Catholics who were persecuted something to aim for, and become very successful. And then you have the Protestant extremists in a football team called Glasgow Rangers, and they are sectarian out. If you're going to talk about sectarianism, it's not the Irish tricolour that causes that. It's various issues in the Protestant denominations that causes that, and that causes it in this country for centuries. So we take no lectures from Mr. Bono about that.
If you were to give Bono some fatherly advice, what would you say to him?
Well, first of all, he went from an absence of it, because the first thing he should have never done was sold his soul, if you like, to the devil, which is selling your talent for money to the like of an internet company, Apple in this case. That's one thing he should have never done, and he should be glad of his talent, use it to the best of his ability, and stop pontificating. He's a singer, not a philosopher.
Thank you very much, John.
Thank you very much, Oliver.